This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back into Viterbi Voices, the podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Powis, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
Emily, how you doing?
Pretty good. Just got back from a ski trip, so that was great.
I was going to say, you don't look like you're in your normal spot. Not that anybody could ever see you, but you're not in your normal spot. It's a different background that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I'm at my friend's house right now.
That's what I thought. Okay, I'm like, that is not your place. That's different. Well, it's good. Today I bring my own episode. I bring another one of our alumni conversations, and this conversation is with Jesal Shah. And Jesal graduated with his environmental engineering degree in the year 2000. He also got a master's degree right after that in environmental engineering. He's also gone and done a whole bunch of other stuff, got an MBA. He is, I think one of the things that you should know going into this is that if you have any interest or questions or want to know what environmental engineers do and things related to water, anything related to water, this is the conversation. It is a great conversation, and might be good, might be bad. Don't really know yet. Curious what everyone else thinks in the world. This is a highly personal one because Jesal was actually one of my college roommates. And so this is a lot of old man reminiscing. Sorry, Emily, where you're going to hear a lot of just old school things from the past. I first met Jesal when I came to USC as a freshman straight out of high school. He's a year older than me. And we talk a lot about our shared experiences because we lived together freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, I think. Yes, freshman. Man, I can't remember. There might have been a skip there, and then he came back. Basically, I've known him for quite some time, and it gets going down a lot of different tangents. So it's a little bit of a longer one. Sit tight. Do whatever you can to hopefully enjoy this episode. I will give you a little tease towards the end, something I didn't know, but wait for the game show topic. The game show topic is probably one of my favorites, and you'll be Googling this afterwards to watch this happen. So I'll get out of the way. I'll get out of the way here, and let's hand it over to me talking to Jesal Shah. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm really good. Well, where are we? Are you in Vancouver?
No, I'm actually in Victoria, British Columbia.
Victoria. I can't keep the Canadian cities straight. I'm sorry. They'll be V and British Columbia is as good as I get.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know what? You're like 95% of the way there with Vancouver. So even Canadians, they're just like, oh, you're in Vancouver. I'm like, nah, it's like Victoria. It's kind of like, you grew up in Orange County and you'd meet someone somewhere else and they'd be like, oh, you're from LA. And you're like, no, I'm from Orange County.
I get it. So how far away is Victoria from Vancouver? Is it like 30 miles?
So, yeah, it's 30 miles.
I'm sorry. How many kilometers? I should say.
Oh yeah. I'd say it's 50 kilometers. So you have to take a boat. So you have to take a boat from Victoria to Vancouver. Yeah. So Victoria's on so this makes it confusing. Victoria's on Vancouver Island. That's the name of the island.
But it's not Vancouver.
Correct. It's the Canadians, I don't know, they just lost their minds and were like, all right, we're gonna have a Vancouver on the mainland, and then we're gonna have a Victoria on a Vancouver Island. And people are just kind of thrown off. And so awesome. Yeah, so you have to get on a ferry, drive onto a ferry, and then the ferry it's an hour and a half ferry ride across the water to Vancouver. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's crazy.
So-
I saw some of the pictures I think you posted recently where it is snowy. It's been snowy up there, yeah?
yeah. It snowed Christmas Day, so it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then
Is that a first for you guys or is that normal?
every now and then, it's like once every 5 years you'll get a white Christmas, and then it rains. It's like a tropical. It's like a rainforest, so it rains a
Yeah.
lot. So within like a week, all the snow's gone because then the rains come, and then we got another big snowfall like a week ago, about 8 inches. But then within 2 days, like it was all gone. Like I didn't have to shovel my driveway, so that's pretty awesome.
That is good news. No, how long?
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Canada?
So I've been in Canada since 2007.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
How did you
There.
find yourself up there? I'm jumping around your
So-
timeline, which is
yeah.
weird for me because
Oh, no.
start at the beginning, but like that's
Yeah.
probably a good point to start.
So I'll just kind of back up a bit about how I got here, so that can kind of give some context. So I was an engineering major in school, and I went, got my civil engineering degree.
Let's go all the way back then. I'm going to start at the
Okay,
beginning.
all the way back.
So
Okay.
you're in Houston, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Now you were born and raised in Houston, or you
Yeah.
just lived there for the majority of your life?
Born and raised. Yeah.
Born and raised,
Born and
H-Town till I die.
Till I die.
Right.
All my Rockets gear, Astros.
Well, and we're not going to talk about the Astros unless you want to, unless we want to have an asterisk on every part of this conversation. I'm happy to do that with you if you'd like.
Let's talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
It's my favorite.
I'll just wear my hat right now.
No, it's missing the asterisk. It's missing the asterisk on that.
Yeah. Well, I'll wear my USC hat. So
Houston,
yeah.
Houston, Texas.
Mhm.
I want to talk about high school version of Jesal.
Sure.
So Jesal, you are always interested in engineering. You find yourself in engineering, or what happened?
So in high school, like I was really into math and science. So I was on like the high school science Olympiad team, academic decathlon team. And I really enjoyed it. And we placed, our high school like placed really high in the state in like all the science Olympiad competitions.
Yeah.
And then I won like second place in the state for physics. Cool. So I found it interesting and it was fun, those, like I dreaded English, history. I like learning about history, but the whole writing piece, like I hated to write. And so I'm going to be jumping forward and back a bit, but like, it's actually not, you shouldn't hate to write if you want to be an engineer, because engineering, you have to write a lot. And like, no one knows that. No one knows, like,
no one assumes that. They think like, oh, I'm going to go this way because it's the opposite of the other stuff, the liberal arts and the social issues type things. Like, actually, this is where it comes back to that.
Yeah. So so I was very I was extroverted, but I was a part of like like the quote unquote the nerdy crew.
Sure.
Like not the jocks, although I was on the tennis team, but Texas is football oriented. So even if you're on the tennis team, you might as well be on the chess team.
I was going to say, lots of people in tennis are thinking that tennis is, a lot of people in Texas are thinking tennis is a sport. Sure.
Yeah. So I did play tennis. I was like very academic oriented, and the school was really like a lot of top students, like a lot of kids went Ivy League.
What school did you go to?
Me, USC. No, I mean, it was
your
top
high school. Your high school.
Cypress Falls High School.
Cypress Falls
High School.
Okay.
In Northwest Houston, Texas.
Got it.
So yeah, we had kids go to MIT, Berkeley, University of Texas, a big one.
Big STEM train. You're just like all STEM all the time type situation.
Yeah.
High. Got it.
Yeah. So so then I decided, so that was like Jesal High School. Like I was really
was USC always on your radar?
The only thing I knew about USC like was OJ Simpson, because I graduated in '95, and OJ was all in USC, and that was really it. Like that's
It's a
all I
bad
knew
year
about
to know OJ.
I know. And so, but the thing is that USC got so much coverage in the press
Because he went to
that
USC. Yeah.
it was just like kind of in the periphery, like it was always out there. And so
Huh.
when it was the summer between my junior and senior year, USC was they sent me an application. I didn't even ask for it. And the
Yeah.
cool thing about USC it was on a floppy disk, like
This
the
is
3.5.
this is why we're old. I tell people
Yeah.
this story. I tell people this story all the time. Like, hey, when I applied, it was high tech, man. I applied on a disc, and it was so high tech. You had the option: do you want the 5-inch floppy or the 3.5-inch?
Yeah.
And I was like hardcore. I'm like, give me the 3.5-inch because I'm on that cutting edge.
Yeah. With this, and they sent me the 3.5-inch. I'm like, whoa, they're like advanced because all the other ones were
no
like,
one knows what we're talking about right now.
No,
Disc,
I
what do you
know.
mean?
But how dated this is all the other applications, I had to use a typewriter.
Yeah.
And then you make a mistake and you're like, oh man, I gotta white it out. Ugh. And
Yeah.
it was such a pain. And then USC sends me this floppy, and I'm like, oh, I can just do it on the computer and I don't have to worry about whiting it out or misspelling something by mistake, And
Right.
if you do that on a college application on your essay, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
you're hooped. So so anyway, I applied and I didn't even think about it, And
Got it.
so
Like, just say, well, okay, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
yeah, like whatever, like it's in LA, Southern California, cool.
And meanwhile, you're looking at all the other engineering programs, MIT.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I actually wanted to be a business major.
Oh.
Because like the whole Wall Street thing intrigued me. So it was different. Like
Finance, that type of work.
Yeah, like the numbers, the math and stuff like that. So I was more interested in that. And so I just kind of picked like 5 schools, to apply to, and like one's the dream school, right? So I applied to University of Texas, Rice, University of Michigan, Vanderbilt, NYU,
Mm-hmm.
And then Harvard. just because mom's like, you have to apply to Harvard, otherwise why did I move here to America? So
okay.
So I got into all of them except Harvard, and so I won't hold that against them. And it came time to decide, and I was like, I want to do something different because everyone I knew was going to University of Texas, A&M,
mm-hmm.
and so I got into Michigan. So I thought about Michigan and NYU, and I got into. So I had basically a choice between NYU, Michigan, and USC. And I was like, someone told me, is like, Jesal, you've grown up in Texas, you ain't gonna like the cold. And I'm like, yes, I will not like the cold.
cut to your snowy backyard right now, but
I know. I know. Isn't that crazy? Life's just crazy. So
but yeah, you're right. Texas, coming out of Texas, like NYU, Michigan, Michigan itself, man, that is cold. Great schools, but how is a Houston boy gonna
right, and I didn't even visit. I'd never visited USC. I just said,
really,
I got a scholarship, and and it was a higher scholarship amount than the other schools. So then I thought, oh, they respect me. They
turning your head a little bit.
And so I and I as a junior and senior, I took combined like 10 AP classes.
Oh wow.
So USC, they were like, all right, you're going to come in as a sophomore because we're going to give you all these credits. So so I didn't have to take like physics 101 or calculus 1 or chemistry 1. Like I AP'd out of those classes. So and so I was like, let's do it. And I go, I'm always up for an adventure. And so that's kind of how I ended up,
Was your
USC.
first time on campus, like when you moved in?
It was orientation. So I did go to orientation.
Oh, orientation. Yeah, orientation. Yeah. Okay. So can you remember, what was that like? What were your feelings? Were you just like, oh my God, this is the mother load, or were you scared out of your mind, or both?
Yeah, I was kind of in, it's hard to describe because it was interesting seeing like California style, California culture,
Yeah.
which was a bit different, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because like in Texas, you wear polos and jeans or polos and khakis. Um, I come to SC at orientation and I'm like polos and khakis, and you could actually spot the other Texas people there
Yeah.
just by what they wore.
To
And
this day,
so
you still can.
yeah. So then, you know, you're just seeing like even the manner of speaking and the slang and all that.
Sure.
It,
Yeah.
it was like kind of a bit of a culture shock, and it
Yeah.
was interesting, you know, and
Right.
just the orientation of like how it was really in depth, and that was really cool. And you know, my younger sister came and my dad was there also, and that whole family oriented aspect of it was
Yeah.
pretty neat, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, so that was the first time. And around the campus, I was like, you know, people would be like, man, SC, it's University of South Central and all this stuff. So people were kind of scaring me beforehand. And you know, you get on campus and it's not, it's great, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you are a
Stories
bit,
and legends abound with the
yeah, you
realities
know,
there. And most of those
yeah.
stories and legends are perpetrated or I think carried out by people who have never been there, which is always my
Mhm.
favorite part. Whenever I hear
Yeah,
stories like, "Oh my God, this now," I'm like, "Have you been there?
yeah.
Have you been to campus?" No, no, I haven't. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you visit and then we'll talk.
Right, right. And but now the campus looks like way more like beautiful and just like
This is the best.
majestic.
Yeah, it's the best part about talking to alums is
Yeah.
it's always a matter of like the types of things that they have now, and I never had any of that stuff like back in the day. And
Yeah.
it's my favorite part of whatever alum I'm talking to from like whatever
Yeah.
generation, like from our years, of course,
Yeah.
it's way different. I'm
Yeah.
certain I talk to anyone else older than me,
Yeah.
we're way different than them, but it's
Yeah.
like these little micro generations have graduated
Mhm.
5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like even them have different things. Oh, I wasn't here when that was there, or that was there,
Yeah.
that building or whatever. And I remember there was a social media post, I think the Dornsife account posted this,
Okay.
and you would appreciate this, but it was pictures of downstairs comments from the 90s.
Oh man, that was such a junk.
And that, well, the thing is like the picture, you're like, oh, like,
Mhm.
wow, so nostalgic. And I had
Yeah.
these immediate different feelings.
Like
I think
tradies, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I even have this idea of I think I even tweeted about this on my Twitter account if everybody wants to go check it out. But it was this idea of like I've never felt more seen and also like told I was old
Oh.
in one post, because I'm like, oh yeah, I could have been in that seat at that time. And you're looking at this and you're like, by the way, Downstairs Commons was basically the Max from Saved by the Bell. Like you go back and look at these pictures, you're like, look at these like frosted cubes, the neon lighting. Like I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad.
I know.
When was the last time you were on campus?
You know, it was in 2017.
Okay.
I think that's when we met up. It was like my 40th
Was
birthday.
that when I saw it? That was your 40th. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I didn't see you on campus. We were at that house down in Orange.
Yeah.
But it was the village there?
Yeah, the village. We didn't get to go there. We were just around campus because
Got it.
my son was 4. Oh, it was 2017. Yeah, he was about 4 years old. So he couldn't take like all the walking back and forth.
Yeah.
So I went on campus, saw like the beautiful commons. Like it looks like I'm in Italy now.
The campus center. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, it was near the bookstore and all that area where all that was. So
Mhm.
it was amazing. And I was like telling my oldest son, who was 12 at the time, like I told him, man, this is my bill. I stayed at Floor Tower. This is where I lived, and this was never here. And you know, just telling him about like just reminiscing about like, you know, how it was when I was there. And he was like, oh, this place is so cool. And I was like, yeah, you know, maybe you can apply here too, and we'll see. And so he's
a junior now, or is he a senior?
Yeah, he's a junior. So he's actually doing his junior year in Houston, Texas. He's staying with my mom and sister's family.
How's it going?
Great. He's so he was kind of taken aback by how much more difficult school is in Houston or in the US versus in Canada.
Got it.
So he's supposed to be like an 11th grade math here, but based on what he had learned, the school in Houston was like, okay, you're in algebra 2, and that's like for 10th graders.
Yeah.
And so that was a kind of a shock to his system, because he's pretty good in math and science, and so he didn't think he would have to be with sophomores when he's a junior. But anyways, it's a good lesson. It's a good experience for him to have, and so he's doing well. He's
Good.
The first few weeks were tough, but now he's doing good. Yeah. So
What school's he at?
Bel Air High School.
Yeah.
Home of Randy and Dennis Quaid. Randy Quaid from
Is it really?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I'm sure they don't claim Randy anymore, but I'm sure.
The picture of Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's.
The height of his success and not totally crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So you are at USC. Were you always going to be? You said you were interested in business, and so, but did you apply as an engineer? Was it environmental or was it civil?
Yeah, no. So I applied as a business major, and I got right into the business school.
No way.
Yeah. And so what happened was, about 4 to 5 weeks in, and I'm not trying to bash the business school or anything, because I have an MBA now, but
MBAs are different than undergraduate business degrees.
Yeah. Well, so I was like, I don't have any homework, and everyone, I don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth, because I just go to class and we have discussions and we may have to read something, but I'm not actually going back to my dorm room and like, I was like, my senior year of high school was more intense than this. And I missed the science. So I realized I missed the science and math.
Mm-hmm.
And so just one day, and I wanted to do environmental engineering, because that was like another passion of mine, was like the environment and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. And I was actually looking through the old course book, just saying, okay, what meets up with my interest and stuff. So I was like, oh, environmental engineering. Okay.
But it was only then. It wasn't like before then that you were considering that path with a STEM focus in high school?
Yeah, it was. I don't know what. Yeah, I had the STEM focus, and then I wanted to do something different. Like my whole thing was, I want to do something different. Like I've been here my whole life. Like I want to do something different, right?
Yeah.
But that difference only lasted 5 weeks, because then I went to Caprillion Hall, because I found out where to go to talk about it, and talked to Dr. Mike Perbazzari, and he was like, yeah, come on board. Yeah, we'd love to have you. And he kind of looked at my grades and saw my transcripts and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, this is it for you. And he said, all right, let's do this. He's like, next semester, let's put you in these 2 classes or 3 classes, and we'll slowly kind of bring you over. And so it was fortunate I had all those AP classes, so I wasn't like too far behind,
right?
With all like the prereqs and stuff. So,
right. So you kind of
so I came back to STEM. Pardon?
You kind of had to start over in a way.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Like,
Can you imagine? This is what I deal with kind of on a daily basis. Is that I meet a student, a younger version of yourself, right? That's like, yeah, I'm good in math and science. But for one reason or another, I haven't been exposed to the thing that I ultimately want to do. And so like this is why we do the podcast. Is like, you're like, I was coming out math and science. I'm thinking, okay, I guess business. Like, and it's really interesting that even to this day, the concept of studying engineering is not a go-to necessarily. And so much of why we started this podcast is to talk about why wasn't it, or why isn't it? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just zero visibility into the definition of engineering, because the definition of engineering is so incredibly broad. And I'm sure we'll get into like, you as an environmental engineer doesn't do what somebody else is that has an environmental engineering degree. Correct. And for you to explain what you do doesn't necessarily encapsulate environmental engineering, but it's a part of it, and so like it's like, how much can we unshed of that process by going through personal stories and be like, so how did you discover it? And oh my gosh, what would have happened, or what do you think you would have needed in high school to be able to say like, wow, if only I'd known X. Is there that something?
Yeah, because when I thought about engineering in high school, I was like, that's robots, that's computers.
It's also nerds, right? And we go back to that jock mentality of Texas, or that you were describing in your high school. I don't want to stereotype Texas, but
for sure. Yeah. It's like jocks and nerds, like Homer Simpson said. There's only two kinds of people.
No, that's my high school too, right? Like there was a very specific subset that were going to engineering, and they were all going to Berkeley. And they're at a point where, like, the minute they talked about whatever they're doing, I was like, well, I'm tuned out.
Yeah. And so I was in that similar vein. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do robots and computers. Like, that wasn't my interest. Like, I thought it was cool, but I was more like, I want to build things and I want to do that. But I didn't know that's what civil engineers do. I didn't know, like, this is what environmental engineers do. I thought environment, like, oh, I want to go clean up like a land or a chemical waste site or something, just to restore it back. I knew about that when I talked to Dr. Purvasari, I mean, I kind of had an idea, but he kind of solidified, those are the kinds of things you do. But I didn't know, like, there wasn't that exposure of, here, engineers actually do this, this, and this, and not solidified it. And so, like, also in high school, like, I was in these bridge building competitions. So you build bridges out of balsa wood. Yeah. And so, I got second place again in one of those competitions. And and then when I talked to Dr. Purvasari, he said environmental is a subset of civil, so you're going to be taking these structural classes too. And I'm like, oh, is that like bridges and stuff? And he's like, yeah, bridges, buildings, all that. And I'm like, wow, man, that's so cool. I didn't know that's what a civil engineer was. Like, I had no clue that's what it was. And so, like you're saying, you're 100% right. Like, there's not that exposure or that knowledge base of, like, look, this engineering has like a million subsets of what you can do. So
so your undergraduate degrees, you end up going into environmental engineering. And what was like a really memorable academic experience? Was there a particular course, or was there a moment where all of a sudden, because oftentimes on this podcast, regular listeners will know, we talk about these aha moments where, like, things will happen in a class or over the course of a class where you're like, oh my God, I can see what I'm supposed to be doing now. Like, maybe I'm interested, but I still don't know where this is going. Was there some sort of like aha moment, or some sort of like really memorable experience in an environmental engineering curriculum where, like, that is what kept me in this?
Yeah. I think it was Dr. Zhao's class on concrete.
Yeah.
That was where, and then I don't know, I keep going back competitions. He had this concrete building competition. Yeah. And so I got first place in that. Like, I got it. And then I got the highest score on the exam in that. And he said, wow, like, you got first place in the concrete, and no one scored this high on the concrete. Like, no, you've and I'm like, I get it. Cause I get it. Like, I understand, strength and forces on structures, I understand that piece. And so that kind of gave me the confidence to, like, yeah, I can do this. Cause before, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with this. And so that was like, okay, I've kind of made it, like, I've done this. And then, I think because of my grades, I got invited to, like, Tau Beta Pi.
Yeah. Engineering Honor Society.
Yeah. And so that was cool. And then I was also part of the Renaissance Scholars Program. I don't know if that's still there.
Yeah, still there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a graduation honor. So completing disparate courses of study, majoring in something in engineering, for example, and honestly, anything else at the university is a disparate course of study.
Yeah. So that's how I majored in engineering, and I still minored in business. So I still got my business minor. So yeah, that was kind of like, going back to your question, I think that was the aha moment. It wasn't like really environmental related, but then that kind of, from there, I got into more of the environmental courses, and then it was like water treatment design, wastewater treatment design, and everything just kind of clicked. Like, I get it. Okay, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
But then, even though it clicked, it's so much different than actually working and doing the stuff. So that's kind of, and so, you know, if you get prepared, but like when you start working,
Yeah.
you're not actually doing equations and like designing things. I mean, you kind of are, but you're mainly, when you first start, you're doing a lot of field work.
Okay.
And so that's something that, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but like I think USC could strengthen that part where it's like, okay, to graduate with an engineering degree here, you have to do an engineering internship,
Right.
just so you know what it's like, and so you're prepared when you get out there,
Right.
of what to do. So,
And these days, just so you know, like 99% of our students have internships before they graduate.
oh, see, that's
This is a
awesome.
different
Like,
vibe now.
okay, because it
Yeah.
wasn't even a requirement. It
No,
was
it's not a requirement. It's
oh,
on purpose. On purpose,
okay,
because people have lots of different paths that they want to go
okay,
on, and
okay,
so we don't require it, but
mhm,
it's a commonplace thing.
okay. So like here at University of Victoria, their civil engineering program, so they have as part of their curriculum, part of their 4
Co-op.
years, yeah, a 1 semester
Yeah.
co-op,
Yeah.
and you got to do that. And so
Yeah. And the reason that we don't is
mhm,
really just is the strength of USC, right? So
mhm,
co-ops tend to exist at universities like the one you're describing,
yeah,
limited access to industry. It's
mhm,
not really surrounded by a lot of stuff. And so
right,
they kind of create these concrete connections and pipelines that, like, well, we need an influx of students from this particular university to work at a part-time element in the co-op, and that'll help supplement the
okay,
education. That's not the case at USC. We're surrounded by industry,
mhm,
recruited
okay,
nonstop. Interns are still paid at the same level, the same rate that co-ops are paid.
mhm,
And students don't have to extend their graduation. They still
mhm.
graduate in 4 years, multiple internships, multiple companies.
Oh, cool.
It's a different beast now.
Right. So it's encouraged there, like, hey, it's good to do this and
It
stuff.
is,
So
it is I don't know what to call it other than it is a, uh, it's part of the culture.
yeah. Oh,
Not just
great.
encourage. It's like, why don't you have an internship yet?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's great. Yeah. And so that's a good part of the USC's program, is that
Yeah.
they're just like, we have all this industry here, like,
Yeah.
go, you can easily get something. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was your life outside of academics like at USC?
How'd
How'd you spend your time?
What, we were roommates, right, Paul? So
Yeah.
sorry to
No. That's the best part about this.
Yeah.
I would have the listener would have heard an intro before this that would have explained that.
Okay.
And so
You do it in post.
We'll do post. Yeah, we'll edit it up in post. So we meet and we're roommates in Fleur Tower. And I was thinking about this earlier today, anticipating this conversation. And I was thinking, like, wow, our suite in Fleur Tower, which at the time was like the newest building at USC, we were all the jazz. Our suite was such an amazing cross section of USC.
Yeah.
Right. So there's you from Texas studying engineering.
Yeah.
There's the two computer science guys, which I don't remember.
Clyde and Mike.
Clyde and Mike. For various reasons, I don't remember them. We got Chris, the stereotypical business major.
Yeah.
We got Andy, who ends up being,
big time.
We all go on to live with each other for multiple years, but Andy and I live together for all 4 years.
Yeah.
And for various housing reasons.
Yeah.
Because we got kicked out. Which maybe we'll get into or not.
Yeah.
But Andy's the science pre-med.
Yeah.
Right. Phil, the cinema guy, like all movies all the time. There's me like trying to figure out my life and not knowing what the hell's going on. Clary, not Ryan, who's not knowing what's going on either. Like we're the two guys that have no idea what we're doing here. And just
typical OC guys. You guys were like the OC, like, what's going on? All right, whatever.
Were we? Is that?
You guys were like, so like, yeah, what, like like from Texas, like the California stereotypical profile.
Okay.
Like that was you and Clary. You're like in your Hawaiian shirts with your like board shorts on. And I'm like, what? You're like out of Encino, man. You're out of, or any, like, pick any like SoCal kind of Beach Boys type vibe or whatever, Jimmy Buffett. Like that was you guys. And so everything was like, yeah, you guys are just like so cool. Like whatever, man, whatever. Everything's like nothing is. It's no big deal. Like I'm like a type A, and I'm like everything has to be like in or like perfect, and I got to do this, and you were just like, maybe on the inside you were different, but you were just like laid back.
Hey man, no,
like, hey, yeah, what, Jesal, you're stressing too much, man. You're bringing me down, bro. You're bringing me down.
I welcome the decades old reflection on anything that I was telegraphing or being very specific about in old days, and I love it because in my opinion, of course not is what we were like, but I'm like, yeah, probably. I mean, because so much of growing up in Orange County is part of that, but also, you what I found over time and still to this day is you have to kind of work against type, oh, you're from Texas, so you're like that. Oh, you're from Orange County, so you're like that. I'm like, hold on. Like there's many times where I'm like, yeah, I'm from Orange County, but don't go there or wherever you're going. But yeah, you're pretty dead on most of that description.
Yeah,
specifically in college.
Yeah, so you're asking like what I was into outside of school, and so I remember like one of the things you and Phil said was like, Jesal, you're never here. Like, what are you doing? And so
we had an ongoing like, where's Jesal? I don't know. Phil, have you seen? Because Phil was in your actual room. Have you seen him? I haven't seen him for days. I have no idea where he is. Yeah, we'd all be around hanging out. Jesal, I don't know. I haven't seen him for weeks.
And I wish I didn't do so much stuff. Like I wish I had more time to like bond. And I mean, I think we bonded.
Not at all, man. Not at all. No, you did what you needed to do. Go, but I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. What were you doing?
No, not at all. So I was in like a social fraternity, Delta Sigma Phi. I was in that. Then I I did a lot of intramurals, did like basketball and tennis. And I was also what was the other thing? Oh, as an extracurricular, I took like a cinema, like a cameraman, like to be a cameraman, like for sports and stuff, for filming sports. So
really? Cinematography.
So I took a course in that, and that was kind of because of Phil's influence, that because he was doing all the cinema stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm at USC, like let me try that. Like it's at the film school, like Spielberg went.
Why not
here.
Take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. And so I like, you know what, I'm gonna take advantage of everything USC has to offer.
That's awesome.
So I, and then big into football games. You guys called me super fan. Because I was at the games, and then I took every loss like personally.
You were our like initiation into that culture.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I think looking back on it, because you were like the kind of the older brother in the suite, because you had done it, and you're like, okay, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're like, hey, I'm in. Like, what do we do now? Where do we go? And like, it was like, I remember when we all went to the UCLA USC game at the Rose Bowl for the first time, and it was kind of like, here, we're gonna do this. This is how it is. Like I remember all these things, but knowing now that you were that involved, the one thing you didn't do was tell us to go do those things.
I know. You're right. Like I should have just been like, guys, do more, take advantage.
Because we didn't really like, I mean, as a suite, like we didn't really like find our footing till sophomore year. I think all of us were pretty much like, we're good. Because honestly, because we had, I mean, to be fair, we had a great floor. Like we ended up building our own little community of like maybe not the other guys' suite so much.
Because they were like baseball players or swimmers.
They weren't. No.
They were like, oh yeah, sorry, that was my freshman. Because I was a sophomore and you guys were freshmen. But I love floor tower.
That's the thing we're missing out, is that you were a second year and we were first year students, and you were in our suite and you were the one sophomore. But the other guys were on a whole other plane.
They weren't really. Yeah.
They
you're
didn't
right.
talk, they didn't hang out, but we
Mhm.
had the two girls suites and we had our
Mhm.
suites,
Yeah.
or the two women's suites and we had our suite.
Yeah.
And we all just made very fast friends with everybody.
Mhm.
It was like, okay, we're all going home. We're all part of this. It was like a commune in a way.
Yeah.
It was like hanging out. And then
Mhm.
the building as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got Somerville Place on the 5th floor. You got
Ian,
the
right?
whole,
And we still hang out with Ian. He lives in Houston.
yeah, I see Ian somewhat. Well, it used to be regular when I was traveling. But Ian's in Houston. Do you see him?
I went to Top Golf with him about 3 years ago,
Did you?
when I was in Houston. Yeah. So
Wow, that's cool.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had Ian down. We had Ian and Devon.
Devon Franklin.
Devon Franklin is a huge movie maker now.
I know. I was like,
Right?
we hung out and stuff. Like, wow, this guy, man.
Yeah, Devon Franklin, Ian Chestnut, Romeo.
Yeah.
I remember Romeo big time. We had the Latino floors. We had El Sol, La Luna 6 and 7. Then we had like swimmers on like 2 and 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then we
And
had
the baseball team.
the baseball team was down there too.
Yeah.
It was because it was, for our listeners, Fluor Tower is an 11-story building of
Yes.
suites.
Mhm.
And we lived on the 10th floor, 1007,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Am I right on that?
1007. Yep. Yep.
1007, man. So just really age us. And and we had a great RA who we became friends with and still hung out with later in life. And then there
Yep.
were a bunch of sophomores on the 11th, right? Because
Right.
Jabari was up there.
Mike and Jabari. Yeah.
Because I still see Jabari regularly because he's working at USC still.
Oh, yeah, that's right. On Facebook. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I chat with him every now and then.
Yeah.
Jabari. Yeah.
And to my point of you not telling us to do stuff, Jabari is the reason I started doing stuff, because he's like, hey, you should apply for Troy Camp, or you should
Yeah.
get into being an orientation advisor. Like because he
Right.
did all these things. And he's like,
But
should check it
you
out."
did all. I mean, Paul, you did a lot of stuff. Like you were all about Troy Camp. You became
later.
Yeah.
Not freshman year. That's why I'm giving you a hard time about freshman year, is that like we were idiots.
Yeah. And I also had a part-time job. Like I tutored. I tutored
okay.
math.
You were working, man.
Yeah. So I was working. Yeah.
Here's the thing.
tutored.
Here's the thing I remember about you, and we made fun of you at the time, but again, to prove my point of you were well ahead of the rest of us, and maybe just ahead of everyone else in the idea. We constantly made jokes because you were a regular napper.
I still am.
Because the question is, where's Jesal? Is he asleep, or is he not here? Right. And that was always like, because it was always to Phil, because Phil was in your room. You guys had like, it was like a black cave of like just darkness in that room. And Phil would be like, I don't know, or he's asleep. and so we made fun about this. And I remember you specifically saying, because we always had a joke about like what we would do later on about like making tons of money. I don't know if you remember this, making tons of money. Would you donate back to the university? And the joke ended up landing. I don't know if it was like your thing or someone else's thing. It was like, you were going to create the Jesal Shah Memorial Nap Center.
Nap Center. Yes.
And I kid you not, a university did that this year.
Oh man.
And I of course I don't have it. I don't have the article in front of me, but I saw a napping center being built at a university, and it was all in the name of like wellness. It was a wellness center, but like there was like napping pods and like also I'm like, oh my God, Jesal is going to flip. This is exactly what he wanted. He wanted to be on campus to take a nap, because your complaint was, I got to come all the way back here to nap.
No. I wanted it like near the center of the school, like near Tommy Trout or somewhere where it's like, I just need 30 minutes. I need a cot and I need 30 minutes. And there's like magazines or books or something. And like, maybe a tea bar or coffee. I don't know, like snacks.
I'm telling you, man, USC is wide open for that now. So you get those Canadian loonies and bring them on down and start your Jesal Shah Memorial Nap.
I can't. Well, that's amazing. You remember that Paul. That is amazing. I haven't heard of that nap center in like 20 years, and that was like
I have lots of odd, very specific memories of that time. Gosh. I'm sure you do that. I don't have either.
Oh yeah. The other thing was the Jesal Shah Expressway. It's like an elevator, like in Vegas how they have those little arches you walk over, and that's like so it'd be over Exposition Boulevard, so you didn't have to wait for traffic to get to the game. It's just like this like people mover, the Jesal Shah people mover, and you just
Got
like
it.
stand on it and it just moves you up and over exposition.
The theme at the time is laziness. How can you exert the least amount of energy possible to achieve what you're trying to accomplish? At the time, you could be called laziness. As an engineer, you would call it optimizing, right? I mean,
Yes.
like you're optimizing your day, and you're trying to make sure that everybody else does as well.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. So then, so the other thing before, like other things I did was, so Phil was the cinema major, and I did some drama in junior high and high school, and then I remember like he cast you in like one of his student films, and then I'm like, oh, just because he's a homecoming king from Orange County, he gets to be in the movie. Like, that's so unfair. That's so uncool.
Were you really upset?
I was a little like, man, I can't believe he chose Paul. But then I was like kind of jealous. I'm like, well, Paul's like outgoing. He was homecoming king. Like, I can't compete with a homecoming king. I mean, who do I think I am? Like, he's made to be an actor, you know? Yeah. I don't know if people know that about you, but yeah, you were a homecoming king, class of '96, Woodbridge High.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Still odd memories.
Yeah, still collecting my residuals.
So I think out of pity, Phil did end up casting me in one of his.
We were all in one of his movies. Do you remember the football movie?
Oh, I don't. I now I do. But yeah, that's right.
I remember that movie to this day. Anytime I hear Jane's Addiction.
Oh, right. Yes, because he loved Jane's Addiction.
So I'd love to have him on the podcast, but he didn't study engineering. It has nothing to do with the school. Where we should have a giant like roommate reunion conversation. Yeah. Just to like out me and make me feel dumb. So I remember he was filming on a Super 8. Like it was like basically like it was like a gun and a little trigger, and it would like click like that.
Right.
And it was black and white, and he had this idea that it was all to like Jane's Addiction. You know, I'm blanking. I think it's called "Go" is the name of the song. And it starts with like birds chirping, and it was all about football. And it was like, so we basically had a game of football where we're like hitting each other. It was like a friendly touch game, but we're like beating the crap out of each other in this game. And then it ends with like us walking off the field, and it was just like high intensity hits and fast movement, but all filmed on this like small little trigger film. I distinctly remember that. And then I also remember the other thing that he did with me, which never went anywhere. It was dumb. It was stupid. I was dumb and stupid. Alcohol. I should say, not his idea. It was like being an alcoholic as a student, and I was depressed. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is gonna do something. And I was like, no, it didn't. And I was not good, and I should never do that ever again.
No, but like one thing it showed about you is that like you're good, and you have no qualms of like being in front of people or being recorded. You know, like most people are like, I would never want to do that. But I think, and that kind of like showcase of like what you are now, like you're kind of the face of admissions, and you're up there talking to people, and it's just kind of like, that's your thing. So I think you know, it was still pretty, it was cool. Like I saw you do that. I saw the film, and then I'm like, man, I kind of want to do that. You know, I've
cool.
So you kind of inspired me to like want to do that. So got to do that. But you know, you were talking about football, and do you remember when we were on, it was pouring rain, and we all went to Cromwell Field, and it was all muddy, and we were just playing football.
Vaguely.
And then we just had the time of our lives. Like we were all covered in mud.
I think I remember a picture of us coming back covered in mud. Like we took a picture, like we have to take a picture of this.
Yeah. And remember the campus police showed up, and we're like, what do we do? And then I think you said, we'll just keep playing. We're just like, we just kept playing, and they shined their high beams on us, and we were just playing football at night on Cromwell. And that was one of my best like memories of like being at USC with you know, rooming with you and all the guys.
I have one more very distinct memory. I have two of you I need to share. Then we'll get back on track for sure. Yeah. Sorry for this nostalgia trip down memory lane to everybody. So number one, I distinctly remember playing my all-time best ever April Fool's prank on you
Oh,
when
shoot.
you were my roommate.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
I must have
So,
blocked it out of my memory.
Okay, so here's the prank, and here's the thing. I'm happy to share this prank now because you can't
Please.
do it anymore.
Okay.
It was I set all of the clocks in our apartment 1 hour ahead, and when you were in the shower, I grabbed your watch and I set your watch 1 hour ahead.
Oh, my fossil watch. Yes.
And so like this can't happen today because like phones and computers and everything else.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like this is how old we are. Like we didn't have any of these things.
Right.
Like we didn't have laptops. I don't think we had a laptop. We had to like go to the computer lab if we needed to write something up and like whatever.
Right.
But it was so basically you went on about your day, like your alarm went off, like I set your alarm an hour early. You got up and you went to class. And I told the roommates about it. I was like, because the kitchen, like the oven clock was set differently. I told them, by the way, these are going to be wrong. It's just for Jesal, like just whatever. And so you go about your day, and you come back at the end of it because this is later, and like this is not freshman year. This is when we were in our apartment.
Juniors, right? I was a junior. Sophomore. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, so they all know about it. And of course, Andy, because who just can't stop laughing.
Yeah.
You walk in the door and he's just like in the side, like he has to leave the room. and this is where we're like saying, hey Jay, how was your day today? And you're like, it was good. Thank you. How was yours? And we're like, anything different happen throughout the day? You're like, and then like you had like no idea. We're like, did it feel like you were always early today? You're like, yeah, everywhere I went, I felt like I was the first one there. We're like, dude, it's not 6 right now, it's 5. And then the look on your face was like, that explains so much what happened today. Did you block that memory? Did you block that?
No, now it's coming back. It's coming back because like I was just like, I remember because I was always like late and last to class, right? I would just sleep as much as I possibly could, and then I would just run, and then I was just like,
so we made you on time actually.
Yeah, but then I'm like, I got to the classroom like, where am I? Am I at the right building? And then like I'd walk out. And then, because I'm like, no, this is the right building. And then I'd have to double check, like,
because today Tuesday. Do I have like, yeah? Because that's the thing is like, what day is it? Like, I don't know what day it is. Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Am I in the right spot?
Where am I? Yeah, like I remember it was like all day, and then I'm just like, I'm just not getting enough sleep.
My other favorite of you, and I tell this story at least once a month.
Oh wow.
Is
awesome. Let's hear it.
So in college, none of us drank coffee.
Right. Yeah.
We just didn't drink coffee. It was not a thing. Maybe that was just local to us in our little group, but it was like we were not a caffeinated group. Like I still tell, like when my daughter asked me about coffee, because now I'm every day.
You need it.
You need it. I was like, yeah, I didn't drink coffee till my senior year in college. And there's a very specific reason why. It's because where I worked, I sat next to the coffee machine and I had early mornings, and I'm like, I smelled it. I'm like, well, I might as well try it. And then from that point forward, done, never again. But it was like, I think it was your junior year, my sophomore year. It was a, you were the king of coupon clipping.
Yes, I was.
Napping. Where is Jay? I don't know. Or you're over there at the kitchen table for hours, going through the mail, clipping coupons.
I remember you'd say, so Jay, your basically meal selection this week is on what coupons you get. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, you're like you would go to the store and you're like, check out everything I got. You're like, because you would only buy what the coupon was. You would not go with a shopping list or a plan. You would just buy like Pop-Tarts are on sale. I'm getting Pop-Tarts this week. Like clarified butter. I don't know what I'm gonna use it for, but it was a good deal.
Yeah.
So like you'd come home with the most random stuff. Anyway, you'd have these conversations about I need to get I need to wake up. We'd always have these conversations about how do we stay up to study, and the idea of like the day, like no dose or Mountain Dews, like all these conversations. Vibrant, remember Vibrant?
Yeah. There was no Rockstar back then or Monster.
There's no energy drinks. And so like our like weird experimentation of caffeinated elements was not healthy. But we'd all have these different stories of like what we did that night to go study. And like, it was like, did you do the Mountain Dew? Did you do whatever? Because we didn't drink coffee. Anyways, you come back with, you know what, dude, guys, this is it. I'm going to start the coffee, because there's a coupon, by the way, but I'm going to start the coffee. Just so you all know, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna be the first one into the fray.
Yeah.
So you come over, and as per usual, you'd show off what you got at the store. Check this out. I got these gummy bears. I got
it was
whatever.
Triple coupon day. They tripled all my coupons. I'm like
Can
a
you
grandma.
Check out this receipt. Look at how much I saved. Awesome, dude. Anyway, you're like, awesome. So hey, remember I told you guys about I'm getting coffee? Check it out. And you open this can, and I don't remember what can it was, but for the sake of the matter, let's say it's Folgers. And you're like, check it out. I got this. We're like, cool. And you're like, see, the reason I got this one specifically is because, you know, we had this conversation. We're not drinking a lot of coffee. It says for all coffee makers. And since I'm new to this, I'm an amateur in the coffee making world. I thought this would be good for me to start on. And I think it was Phil and I, it might have been Andy and I. We looked at you and said, yeah, buddy, a coffee maker is a machine that we don't own. You have to put that into a coffee maker to make that coffee. It's good for all brands of coffee maker. And again, that look on your face. Oh. We're like, you gotta go get some instant coffee, buddy, or go buy a coffee maker. But I think you're gonna want some instant coffee. And I remember that can was in our pantry for like the whole year.
Because we didn't have a coffee. You know, Paul, like I still have those moments. And like my wife was like, you know, if I had known this about you, all this, the kids and the house and marriage,
three kids later, Canada, all that
would have never happened. And so it was like I would say things like, Jen, did you know? And I'm dead serious. Like 5 years ago, I found this out, that prunes are dried up plums.
Don't.
She's like, what? Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I thought. She's like, how did you live your life and not know this? I'm like, it doesn't look like a plum. And she's like, well, raisins don't look like grapes. And I'm like, oh my God, I get it.
Wait a minute. I thought you were going to say, wait, raisins are grapes?
Yeah, I know.
Did you know that?
Wine comes from grapes?
Stop it.
Oh my God. No, that was,
I think how many times any of our wives would say, had they known X about you, and there's like a number of things you can put into X that probably revolve around the ages of 18 to 22. Yeah, it's a reason why none of us are married to people we knew at that time frame. It's like we are idiots. I mean, it's also just boys. Like this is with kids, and I actually want to talk to you about this as well.
Yeah,
you have 3 boys.
Yeah, 3 boys. Yeah.
I cannot imagine what your house is like. And I mean that with all due respect, because I have
please,
I have one girl, right? And like
that's the dream.
All of my friends, girls, all of our neighbors, girls. And we have this, like, Cher and I have this conversation. We're like, whenever we see something or like whatever happens, like a boy comes up, like boy energy. And it changes everything. One boy changes everything. You have 3.
Oh yeah. We have like weapons buckets. Like, you know, like people have like toys and stuff, but like we have like bins just for their like weapons, like swords, hockey sticks, you know.
To clarify, they're toy weapons.
They're toy, yeah, toy weapons. Yes, like, or things they turn into weapons. Like, oh, this is the inner cardboard part of a poster Dad got. We're gonna use this to beat on each other, and then like they're finished like fighting, and then they put it back in their weapons bucket when they're done. And so yeah, it's just like my buddy has 2 daughters, and you go to his house and it's like, where's all the noise? Like you have your girls are my son's age, like, where aren't they fighting?
Nope.
What's going on?
Nope.
And they're like, oh, they're just playing. I'm like, well, they're just playing. Like, It's
They're probably having separate conversations about you. Like, should we invite them over again? Because like,
yeah,
remember last time they completely just
trashed our house.
yeah.
Like his boys just trashed our house. And it's just like, even moms of boys,
They're
like
different.
Jen's just like, I don't wear makeup. No, I'm not. Oh, I'm not gonna buy that. That's just gonna get destroyed when
Yeah.
they throw their applesauce or they spill their juice or something. Like,
We're at a
so
friend's of mine's place that has two boys, and
mhm.
I remember sitting there. We ended up being like the first group over that were not another set of boys.
Okay.
And first of all, McKay was like not leaving us. Like she's like, I feel a tremor in the force. I'm not going into that room. Like this is not where I want to be, until another girl arrived, and then they had met like magnetically, or like, we're gonna go do something else in another room. Like sweet. But I remember talking to good friends of mine. I remember talking to the wife, and I'm literally having a conversation with her, and three boys are just screaming their lungs out, running in circles around us, and I'm constantly like, what is happening? Like I am just like on this, and she never lost eye contact with me and maintained an entire sentence. One of them ran full speed into her, like it would have hurt. She didn't flinch. And then the kid said something. She's like, yeah, here. And I was like, what is happening? Like I don't get this. Like I'm amazed.
No, it's like the wounds like my wife and I have from the boys. It's like the strangest wound is when Bryn, who's 8 now, but when he was like 3 or 4, he had a metal chopstick, and he was like, goes up to his mom and was like, I wonder what happens if I just jab this in your ear.
Oh my God.
And like, I'd never heard someone in more pain in my life. But yeah, it's like, oh, this is something sharp. Let me just hit somebody with this.
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah, you're kind of living the dream with the one girl but I hear when girls become teenagers,
everything's got its balance in life.
And then we're like, what's up?
Yeah. And there's, trust me, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows here. But
oh yeah, no. They have all little kids.
Everybody's got
their
their moments. Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I have my meltdowns too.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we're back at it. So you decide that you want to continue on and get your master's in environmental engineering.
Yeah.
How did you make that decision? And
so what I did is my junior year, like we lived at City Park, right? And then so the second semester, like people always told me like you should study abroad. Like without a doubt, study abroad. It changes your perspective on things.
Yeah, it does.
You should go overseas. So I got an opportunity to go to Australia for this environmental studies program.
I don't even remember this. That's cool.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And like, I even sent you postcards, and you guys kept the postcards on the fridge.
It sounds like something we do, but I don't remember. I've completely blocked that.
Yeah. So I was in the rainforest in Australia near Cairns, Australia. And so I spent a semester there, lived in a rainforest, like in a cabin in a rainforest, and then just learning about like the environment and like ecological economics and the value of nature to the global economy, like how it provides health and all this stuff. And like, and so the crazy thing about that is that there were all these East Coast liberal arts school people there, like no one from the West Coast. So like there's people from like Smith College, Bates College, like college that I'd never even heard of.
Where in Australia were you? What city?
It was outside of a city called Cairns, and it was.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. Okay.
And so it was in an area called the Daintree Rainforest.
Yeah.
And so even being and it was like 30 American kids in this like rainforest like commune in Australia, and so but these were all like East Coast liberal arts school kids. So I didn't even know what a vegan was. Like I met a vegan. I like half the class were vegans. And so I know I'm getting off topic here, but it was great experience. I got credits for 4 classes. And then I also ended up getting a minor in environmental studies. So what happened was when I came back, Professor Purbazari said like, okay, you just need 2 classes to graduate. But those classes are only offered in the fall. So you'll have to come for a 5th year. And I'm like, oh man, like I can't, like I didn't have any forethought to like, okay, if I go to Australia, what's this going to do to me graduating? But then he said, well, what you can do is you have to take 2 classes to be a full load, take 3 more classes and take graduate classes.
Yeah.
And then in the spring, you only need to do 4 more graduate classes and you'll have a master's. And then I was like, what? Whoa. And he goes, and we'll give you a TA-ship. Like you'll be a TA and it'll pay for part of your school. And I was like, this is a no-brainer. And I'll have a master's. So so that was the real impetus for me, just getting the master's degree. And so and you know, and then I get to teach too. So I thought that was pretty cool, you know, like, you know, being in, you know, doing the office hours or the lab classes and just kind of being in front of the students and helping them with their homework problems and stuff. So you know, I was intrigued by that. And you know, you'd have a master's degree, and you know, most masters are 2 years long. So he just said, you know, we'll give you credits for this, this, and this, and yeah, you'll be done in a year. And I was like, let's do it for sure. So that's how I ended up getting my master's.
It's really funny. That just made me like, I had this flash. I have a memory of you in your grad year, because that was my first year working in engineering. And I remember being in Caprillion in that little library room. Yeah. And I was either giving a presentation or I was meeting with Dr. Carter Walford, who was the chair at the time. Right. And I remember doing some things there, like getting my feet wet, learning how to do some stuff, learning about engineering, learning about civil engineering, environmental engineering. I remember walking out and you were in the room next to it, because that was like the TA, like meet with your TA, like study room area or whatever. Yeah. I remember seeing you there. We had a quick, like, hey, what's up, man? What are you doing? Like, and you were getting you're in your graduate degree, and I was working. It was just the weird, I don't know why I just had that thought, the second floor of the cap.
Well, it's so weird, like, you know, because I think you were liberal arts, like psychology or sociology. And it's like all my classes were at Cap, and then
no, I would never see you. I would never see you. I would, like, all through undergrad, I would never see you unless we're in the apartment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and because like I lived at Cap and Levy. Yeah. And so, but so like full circle, it's weird. Like, and then when we graduated, you worked at Cap. Who knew? Like, you worked at Cap, right? Yeah. Like, or you were always around that area.
I was in Olin.
Olin, okay, Olin school, right? Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, sorry to digress, but
no.
Yeah. So
don't apologize to me. It's the listener who's still, whether they're still listening now. Who knows?
A coffee maker. That's all the time. I got to tell Jen that.
What do they tune out?
Coffee makers. No, and I remember your dad even got a kick out of that story. Like, your dad was cracking.
My dad
up.
Still, I think my dad tells the story as frequently as I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you go on. Yeah. What was your first job?
So my first job was at Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts, where I worked in the air quality group. So that was their.
Were you always thinking about air at that time when you're going through your master's?
I think I just fell into it because Dr. Sutis, like I felt a connection with him. Yeah. And he was all about the air, and I'm like, and I was talking to him, and he just said, he's like, Jesal, what's one thing we all need? And I'm like, a roof over our heads. And he's like, no, we need air. I'm like, oh, yes, air.
That too.
That too. And so he's like, air is the most important thing, and air should be clean. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And so that's kind of, it was just kind of this aha moment again. I'm like, I want to be in air quality, because especially living in Southern California, lots of air quality issues. And it's like it's one of those beautiful places in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, we don't need to subject ourselves to this kind of pollution. Like there is like we can do something. And so like, I wanted to make a change, and I wanted to make a difference. So I was like, yeah, this is it. Air is a huge problem in LA, and I want to do this. So, so I got a job in like the air emissions group at LA County Sanitation Districts. And that was specifically geared to their industrial operations. Cause like their landfill would burn methane to help provide electricity or energy for the landfill. But when you burn methane, you release like SOxes and NOxes. So like sulfur oxides and nitrous oxides. And so like, we had to meet air quality management district standards, California Air Resources Board standards. And so, we were in charge of like bringing in technology to help make it a cleaner operation.
Got it.
So, and I thought I would do that like forever. And then I went to work for LA County Department of Public Works, just to like try something different after that. Like in hindsight, I should have just stayed at sanitation districts, but I was just kind of feeling like I don't know if I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so then I went to Public Works, and I was in their stormwater division. And so we made sure construction sites, whenever it rained, that you would have pollutants washing off and destroying the environment and stuff.
Every time it rains, you have to go to another site. Oh, I got to go out here and test something.
Yeah. So I was testing stuff. So I had like the bottles, taking it to the lab, doing the chain of custody forms, getting the results, and then like not yelling at the contractor, but going to the contractor and like, hey, your site is discharging these oil and gas pollutants. Like, you got to clean up your site, or we're going to fine you and shut you down, and 10 grand a day. And so, so that was kind of like a lot of what I did. And then, and like, I don't know, like I saw, like, I listened to one of the other episodes, and someone was like talking about like rap music and how they had like a diverse kind of career. Yeah. And so at that point, like, Paul, I was just burnt out. Like, I had just gone just 110% since like high school, and since 9th grade, and like master's degree, and
quarter life crisis.
Yeah. And so I was like, what did I have fun doing? Like, where was I happy? And it was like the acting thing. So because I remembered like drama in high school and junior high, and then like hanging out with Phil and doing the film stuff. And then so I just like, you know what? I have my whole life in front of me. I've always been interested in this. I'm gonna try and be an actor. And so I left Public Works and just was like, yeah, let me do this. And so I took classes at the Westwood Playhouse or something, Playhouse West in the Valley.
Yeah.
And James Franco was one of the students there. Annie Palicki was also, she was on Friday Night Lights. And so, I was just like, this is so different. And I'm like, I'm in LA. I want to try this. So, I did it for a couple of years. Like I had some auditions and did a few commercials and stuff.
Is there a commercial out there that we could see?
I did something for Symantec, like Norton antivirus. Yeah. So I was the engineer from India who recorded against. Yeah. So any audition, they're like, great. Can you do that in an Indian accent?
Oh my God.
Like, all right, sure. And so I was like, Raj from India. And so, and so like, I might be going off topic, but like, so I, as an actor,
you did all this. I didn't know any of this.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, okay,
no, this is all news to me. I'm trying not to interrupt because I'm just like blown away right now.
Oh, okay. So, so then that's one of my friends in acting class. I'm like, I'm broke. I have no money. Like, how do you guys do it? Like, how do you do auditions and work?
Yeah.
Because I was used to the 9 to 5, and they're like, well, I'm a waiter. I'm a bartender. And I'm like, well, okay. And I tried getting those jobs and didn't work as I had no experience. And so one friend was like, you just go on a game show. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, just go on a game show. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, we know how to be in front of people. We know how to take direction. We can cue to camera. And, all those classes I've been taking.
What year was this?
This was 02.
02. Okay.
02, 03. Yeah. So I graduated in 01. Yeah. Sorry. This is 03.
03.
Yeah. 03. Where I was just like, I'm going to try this. And so, so I applied for Hollywood Squares, and then I got the audition, going to the audition.
Is this when Whoopi was doing it?
This is Martin Mull, boy Martin Mull.
Martin.
Yeah. Explain to your listener.
I'm not going to explain who Martin Mull is to our listeners. They have no idea.
Yeah. So Martin Mull, Penn and Teller, Tyrese, Judy Tenuta, like, some of the B-list. John Ritter. Oh, he was there.
Are you serious?
R.I.P. Yeah. So I won. I became a 3-day champ. I won like 30 grand, and I won a trip to Victoria, British Columbia, and I won a trip to England. And
maybe I do know this.
Yeah.
Did we met up at a bar in Hollywood one night?
Yeah, like when you turned 28, or yeah, you were turning 28 or 29 or 30. I can't remember.
That's a really deep pull.
Yeah, no, because I remember, because we had drinks in Westwood or something, and I told you like what had happened to me. So
This
long
is
story.
all again coming back to me like, wait, I think I do know this, but I completely blocked this out.
I tried to too, but so I won the trip to Victoria, and then I didn't even know where Victoria was. I'm like, where is this? They go, you got to fake it on camera. You got to just clap and say yay, because they
Victoria,
give you all
Canada.
that direction. Yeah, and so I went to the trip. I went on the trip into Victoria, and then I met someone, and we had, we ended up having a kid together. And so that's how, long story short, that's how I'm in Victoria, because of a game show called Hollywood Squares. But
You literally won your life.
I won my life. But here's where engineering comes into it. I'm going to tie it back to engineering.
Okay.
Immigration. So I was like, all right, this is my son. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna take responsibility, And so if you're an engineer and you have a license, so I had a PE license,
Professional engineer license.
Yeah, and they said you can just walk into Canada and work for 7 years. You don't need to do immigration. The only thing that a company has to offer you a job, and because of NAFTA, you can just come and get a job. So then I was up there visiting my son, and I opened the phone book. So back then there was like phone books, this was in 06 or something. So I opened the yellow pages, and I went to engineering, and I called like 5 engineering companies. I told them, hi, I was thinking of moving here. I have a professional engineering license from California. I was just seeing, are you hiring? And they all knew that in California, you have to pass the seismic exam. So as part of the PE. And so earthquakes are a big deal up here in the Pacific Northwest. So they're like, can you come in today for an interview? So I literally, Paul, had 4 interviews scheduled that day and the next day. So in the morning, I made all these calls, and then in a day and a half, I had 4 interviews. And
in demand.
Yeah. And then I got 3 job offers. And so I was just like, I tried the acting thing, and now I have a son. So I need to kind of, do engineering because I like engineering. And so that's kind of, long story short, how I ended up in Canada and working as an engineer. And so, so that was in 07. And my oldest is now 16, and then I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And and so now, like, I'm I can just talk about like my career progression, like where I'm at now, or was there any,
because you've done a lot of different,
no,
you just keep going, man. You're on a roll.
Right.
You've had a lot of different engineering kind of professions across a number of different I don't want to call them industries, because you also worked for the government, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right. So I got a job with a company called Worley Parsons. And I worked there for a couple of years in specifically like wastewater engineering, stormwater engineering.
Right.
And then making buildings like LEED Platinum, LEED Gold.
Yeah.
Do you know LEED? Yeah.
Yep.
So I was on those teams, like those project teams. And then the US had the economic downturn in 07. And then it so the phrase in Canada is when the US gets the flu, Canada catches a cold. And so there was also an economic impact in Canada. So that office shut down. And then I was going to move back to the US, but then this position opened up, and my friend was like, you should apply for this. It'd be great. It's flood engineering. And I'm like, I'm a stormwater engineer. Those are 2 different things. And so typical flood engineering is like river flooding, ocean flooding. But what I was doing was like rain flooding. So that's like there's a big rain event, and then like a city's flooded. But this was like when rivers flood. And so like, how you're saying in engineering, there's so many different subsets and different fields of it. And it even gets so specific.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I applied for the position, and I was like, I totally bombed the interview. I didn't get it. Like, I didn't do that very well. And then I got the job, and just to go on a sidebar for
And
interviews.
this is with the
Yep,
Ministry of Forests, Lands, and Natural Resource Operations.
correct. Yeah. And I was listening to this podcast the other day, and it's talking about interviews, and they go, "No, sorry, Paul, I was listening to you, and you said this, that
This was
if you
me.
yeah. And I'm like, that is 100% true. You said, like, if you come out of an interview saying I nailed it, you didn't, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or was the guy from Apple that you're interviewing or something?
No, it's I 100% believe it. Whenever you walk out thinking you nailed it, you did not.
Right. And if you walk out, you're like, I'm not sure. I have serious doubts. Those are the ones you end up getting. And so in my whole career of interviewing, that's exactly how it's played out.
Huh.
Like interviews where I'd like, I have no clue. I could have bombed it. I could have nailed it, but I'm leaning towards I bombed it. Those are the ones you get. And so
I can't believe that my podcast has entered into your subconscious as like, I was listening to this podcast.
I was like, wait a minute, that's you. I listen to like Stuff You Should Know and like real life stuff.
Me too.
So so then I got the job.
I like how you clarified that, like, different than my podcast, you listen to Stuff You Should Know and real life stuff. I like how you clarified the disparity between what I do. But let's move on. So you start working as a flood. I meant safety.
Like true crime and like document.
Sure. Yeah, I get it.
Paul, you're like the first podcast I've ever just like quoted, like just randomly. Oh, I listened to this podcast.
Legit,
it's actually yours.
That's a huge honor. Like what you just did, because I saw your eyes. You're like, wait a minute, that was you. Like, that actually made my day, dude. Like it really did. They really did. Because this is me doing this now, and I know that how many people regularly listen. Why would they? We get some people that listen. It's just really cool when you get the feedback that people were actually listening. They pull something out of a certain element. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, wow. So maybe I should keep doing this.
No, I definitely think you should. Like I think it's a great way to reconnect with alumni, and then just to kind of have that buy-in, and you can pick out clips and stuff and just like put them up on your website, or like, hey, here's what an engineer said about this.
That's way too much work.
Well, you got interns and students and stuff looking for co-ops or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Get someone from the communication school. Like, I need you to go.
We do all our own stuff. Do all our own stuff. They ask us how to do it.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell you how many times we get calls from other schools saying, how do you do that? I'm like, you are the communication school. Go ahead.
You should know how to do this. So then I was a flood safety engineer. And so there's a big river up here called the Fraser River. So it's like Canada's version of the Mississippi.
Got it.
And so when it floods, like
it's just more polite.
Yes, it's more, excuse me, I'd like to flood. Is that okay? I'll tell you a funny Canadian story.
Sorry. Didn't mean to flood there.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, buddy.
Excuse me. Didn't mean to. So one of my first experiences of Canada was I was in the grocery store, and I'm like, mindlessly, coupon shopping.
You mindlessly? Wait.
Looking for some Folgers, something for all coffee makers. And then I'm like, run into this lady. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry there. I'm like, I ran into you. She's like, oh, I shouldn't have been standing there. And I'm like, no, I should be paying attention to where I'm going. And she's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, I'll let you, and she just apologized. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like in the US it'd be like, hey, watch where you're going, pal. I'm like, yes, I will watch where I'm going. Or
check yourself
before you wreck yourself. So I forgot where I was going on this. Oh yeah, so my job.
Yeah, but you're a flood safety engineer, and at that time you also choose to go get your MBA.
Oh yes, yeah. So I decided to, and I'd always wanted to like be more than just an engineer. Like I wanted to kind of have the business sense and get into upper management. So I thought, getting an MBA would help give me a leg up. And so like my thing with engineering is like I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none. Like I know enough to get me in trouble,
Right.
But then the nitty gritty modeling, coding stuff, like
Yeah.
I get crickets. And
Right.
so I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. The intricate details, we can give that to staff, but like, I feel like I need to learn the business side of things, and then like how to communicate better, how to write better. And so I thought, like, let me get my MBA. And so University of Victoria here had a program, and again, I was just all about the NBA, and I did a whole bunch of things. I did a bunch of case competitions.
Yeah.
So I did this case competition for Nespresso, and we ended up being like top 3 in the world, and they flew us to Lausanne, Switzerland,
Really?
to to pitch to the final to pitch to their executive board, like the executive board of Nestle and Nespresso. We had to we had to pitch our case, our business plan for them. And so we ended up getting second place, but it was an amazing experience because like we got to eat in a castle. Like
Whoa.
they brought us, like, we had fondue in a castle and like wine, and it was just like 5-star, like royal treatment. Like this castle was on a lake.
Huh.
And this was all for like business school, and there's like a case competition, and then I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And then
you go from all coffee makers to pitching on Nespresso.
Yeah.
The movie is writing itself right now.
I think so. Like, let's get Phil. We can write this up.
Get Phil on it. We'll call it percolating.
Yeah, percolating. And so, and then after that, I was like, I'm gonna do another case competition. And then this one was like on sustainability and engineering processes for like, this was for Novartis Pharmaceuticals, and they use like a lot of energy to produce pharmaceuticals, like drugs. It's like crazy how much water and power goes
water
into
and
it.
energy.
Yeah, I had no clue. And so we had to come up with a business plan, like how can we reduce everything so that we meet these goals. So
our faculty in environmental engineering, Dr. Kelly Sanders, is the leading researcher in what she calls the water energy nexus.
Oh man.
Which is actually studying exactly that same thing. Nothing uses more water than energy production, and nothing uses more energy than water.
Yeah. It's and like these kinds of experiences, like you can't really get like day to day reading the news and stuff. Like that's just like immersing yourself in a university and taking advantage of it. And then in that we got top 3 again, and they flew us to Davos for the World Economic Forum, which was like crazy.
Wow, that's crazy.
And and then there we won like first place. So like first place in the world. So I leveraged that into getting a management position in the British Columbia government. So like I got a director position. So I went from an engineer to like a director of like basically funding engineering projects across the province of British Columbia. So
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now you have done a number of different positions, but you're now doing dam safety.
Yeah. So the flood safety and dam safety teams are in the same like department of the province. The province is like a state. So this position opened up, and they're like, Jesal, we need someone to like take that over. You've done well here and here, so can you manage our dam safety program? And I said, yeah. It was interesting because then I'd actually get to go see dams and like look at these huge structures and holding back like billions and billions of gallons of water, and like if these dams fail, it could kill like hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So it was pretty like it was almost like an honor, like, oh wow, thanks for considering me for that, like doing something right.
Yeah.
And so there's like 1,900 dams in the province, and so most of the energy provided in British Columbia is hydroelectric power, because there's so many mountains and there's so much elevation change that they take advantage of gravity.
Yeah, using the water, create the energy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So So
Do you
yeah,
like
that's kind of how I
do you
ended
do
it.
you like it?
Yeah. We just got audited, and so
Jeez.
that was super interesting because it kind of it takes like a neutral third party, and they kind of expose the gaps in your program. And you know these and so coming with a business background, I when I came in, I'm like I did like a thorough evaluation of the program, and I like told our executive, our upper management, like, look, these are the gaps in the program, and we need to fill them because you know people's lives are at stake, and it's a big public safety thing. And so you know they go, we don't have any budget, and they go, you're gonna have to like shoehorn it in and use duct tape or whatever. So,
Hmm.
but this audit comes along, and it just kind of exposes everything, and you know was kind of like, I told you so, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But that enabled us to get like a lot more funding because they realized the gravity of the situation of like, there's one dam here called Mica Dam. If that dam fails, think about this. The entire city of Portland would be under 20 feet of water
Jeez.
because it would cause a cascading
Just
series
keep
of
going
dam
down.
failures. Like I think Libby Dam would fail, then a bunch of other dams, and then
Wow.
it would just like completely devastate Portland. So like dams are really, really, you know, like clean energy, but they also pose like, they're also
Yeah.
hazards.
Yeah. And
if anything goes wrong.
and something that no one thinks about, and an entirely good example of aging infrastructure. I mean,
Exactly.
when's the last time a dam was built?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
and
dams were a huge deal coming out of the Civilian Conservation Corps. I mean, like
Mhm.
dams being built everywhere, but we're going back to the 20s and the 30s and
Mhm.
40s on
Yeah.
most dams being built in the continental United States.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
taking a shot in the dark. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but
no, it
sounds
is
about
true.
right to me.
It's very true. And they're all past like their lifespans. But
no one wants to spend money to build a new one. It's like, well, they haven't broke yet. Well, yeah, because when it breaks, it's not gonna...
Oh, I know. And it's the same thing, like you know, the ASCE report card in the US for their infrastructure. I think it's a C or a D, but it's the same in Canada. Like,
And the ASC is the American Society of Civil Engineers, for everyone listening.
right. Oh yeah. So you know the grades are the same, and the thing with civil engineering or civil infrastructure is that it's out of sight, out of mind. So people don't know what happens. They just think, oh, I just turn my tap on and water comes out.
Water's there. That's the most, I think it was marked as the most amazing feat of the 20th century. Was clean running water. And they said it will be the most amazing feat of the 21st century because still the majority of the known world does not have that.
Right. Yeah. And so you know, like when I immigrated to Canada and I had to show my like job offer and my professional engineering, because they require you to show your license for NAFTA. Yeah. And then the guy was like, well, what are you going to do here? And at that time, it was more like water and wastewater. And I'm like, well, I'm an engineer. And so we treat drinking water so that it's safe for you to drink. And then we treat wastewater so it's safe to deposit back to the environment. And then he was like, I didn't know there were jobs for that.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, so people don't know, like there's so much that goes beyond the scenes and stuff. And it's like, why should I pay taxes? You know, like you have these people like, bro, like that's your roads. Those are your like power poles, your power lines, your water, your pipelines, you know, your sewer lines. Like there's so much that goes into this, like your garbage pickup and stuff. So yeah. So sorry, I keep digressing.
You're not. This is the point. And I think the main point about this is the idea of what does an environmental engineer do? And I think you've done some a great job in not only illustrating it, but providing some really good details and knowing why people don't want to go into environmental or civil engineering is because it's not at the top of their head. And this is to bring it back full circle. This is what I was getting at in the original question.
Yeah.
Was this where you were heading? Of course it wasn't, because no one was having these conversations. You can have conversations about products and marketing, and people can understand what business is. And so someone that has a head for math will say like, well, I guess that's where we're supposed to go because that's the only place I see in the current zeitgeist that deals with numbers. But to talk about
100% true, 100%.
But to talk about this idea of wastewater management, first of all, is not sexy at all.
No,
and stormwater management and dam, also, it's not necessarily, but to think about the elements and the hardcore, true, heavy engineering problem solving that needs to happen, and is quite literally making society run.
Yeah,
that's where it's all at. I want to wrap up with you because I know we've gone over our time.
Yeah.
And you've been very, very generous. But I want to wrap up with one little surprise for you.
Okay.
Because
Here we
I do some quick Googling.
Oh my God, you found it! Oh my gosh. How did you find this? I was gonna send this to you. Oh my gosh.
I'm a good Googler. Look at young Jesal.
Oh my gosh.
Tom Bergeron of Dancing with Stars fame was the host of Hollywood Squares back in the day.
Yeah. Look at how thin I was.
Jesal Shah, welcome, Jesal. Good to have you back.
Oh,
And your new challenger.
I've never seen this. I'm gonna have to post a link to this.
Yeah.
Because we have such the star here on the podcast, but I wanted to tease it a little bit.
That's awesome. So I psyched everyone out in the green room because of my statistics classes at USC, because I would know, I was like, statistically speaking, the key is going to be here because it wasn't here. And if you, and I was just using all this terminology and everyone's like, oh my God, I don't want to play against you. And then like the people I played against, they were already in there, like they're done. Like their minds were just messed up. But I wasn't trying to do that on purpose. I was just like,
you're just having conversation about your thoughts and your problem solving mechanisms, and you're totally messing with them.
Yeah. So
also hard to brag about, like, I'm super knowledgeable on Hollywood Squares. It's not like you won Jeopardy or anything.
Right. I won like a tic-tac-toe game show. But there was like some trivia in there. Like, what's the most expensive city to live in? It is an
But you didn't have to answer it. You had to say whether they were right or wrong.
But I had to know, okay, yeah, it's not, it's 50-50, right?
Yeah, hey man, it's something I've never done, so I can't criticize. But I will say it ain't Jeopardy.
Yeah, you're right. It ain't Jeopardy. You're right.
It's not even
100%.
Wheel of Fortune.
But I was on Wheel of Fortune too.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I won like 12 grand on there. Oh man, I didn't even like loop that in. Oh man. Because I was on Hollywood Squares, when I go to Wheel of Fortune audition, they were like, okay, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, hey, my name is Jesal Shah. I was a 3-day champ on Hollywood Squares. Wheel of Fortune is my favorite game show. I used to watch it with my grandma every day. And they're like, what? And so that's how you got to be when you go to these auditions. You got to like just be out there, like think Will Ferrell, Saturday Night Live cheerleader dude. You just got to be like, that's how you get on those shows, Paul. Just because I know you got it in you
now. Yeah. And I emailed you this the other day and I said, I don't know why I never thought of this before, but I can't believe we waited this long to get you on this podcast. I am so glad that we did, because of all these little nuggets of information. And factually speaking, you're the second person from Floor Tower on the podcast. I don't know. I'll have to send you the link, but I don't know if you remember Andy Goodney. He was on the 4th floor. He was in the band.
Oh yeah. No, that name sounds familiar.
Anyways, he's now a faculty member in computer science at USC. And so
really?
I had him on and we talked about, because he was always friends with all of our friends on the 10th floor.
Right. Because they were all in the band, like
they were all in the band together.
Stuff.
Yeah. And so I had Andy on a couple of years back. And so we shared stories about Floor Tower. And then oddly enough, it was like in that year after, I ended up seeing Rachel Loya for like the first time in a long time. And I saw Rachel, she was visiting campus for like homecoming or something. Her parents were with her as well. And we were talking stories about the Andy Goodney stuff and all the things that happened in Floor Tower. But I know you got to go.
No, I don't. Hey, hang on a sec. I just want to finish this. Hey, Daddy's just on the phone right now. So let me just hang on 1 second, Paul. They're just obsessed with video games.
Oh, we haven't done that yet, and I don't want to.
Good for you. You stay, because with one kid, it's easy.
Yeah, stay strong. Yeah, what exists in this planet only exists what we allow to exist in our world.
Yeah, but when you got an older kid who's got the stuff, the tech, and then the younger kids see that, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were at I can't.
Oh, I was just saying that you're the second one from Floor Tower. So we've
Oh,
got,
right. Yeah, Andy Goodney. You met Rachel.
so I ended up seeing Rachel for the first time forever. We were talking about the podcast, and then she sent me all these pictures of Andy back in the day. And so I sent it to Andy. I was like, by the way, these are out there in the world, because we did not go to school with social media. So like these hard, printed photos of us exist in different areas. I'll have to see if I can dig some up for us. Back in the day, and put them somewhere online to promote this. But it was a ton of fun talking to you. I am really glad that the Mr. Floor Tower competition did not come up in conversation.
Oh yeah.
No,
oh, you see,
no, I'm not bringing it up to talk about it. I'm just glad
President Paul won Mr. Floor Tower. He was Mr. Floor Tower, and I was also like jealous of that. Weirdly, I'm like, oh, we got a homecoming king, and he's Mr. Floor Tower.
It's a dubious honor. It's not necessarily something to be proud of.
But you know what? When I met
my only thing
Ian,
proud of is that I did beat Ian, and I bring that up to him every time, because it was between me, Ian, and Devon. And to look at those guys, to beat Ian and Devon in anything, let alone something like that, which is a male beauty pageant. That was the goal. Like, oh my God. Like I have a picture of me on that thing, and Ian and Devon are in the back like they just lost. And I'm like, they are way more successful than I will ever be in my entire life, and are like gods among men. And it's just like,
you're doing well, man.
But look at this. Look at this. One night.
That is a good little blackmail for Devon. No, that was awesome. Like, when I was hanging out with Ian, none of his brothers or friends knew he was like the runner-up. And so like we're at Top Golf, and I was like, hey, your brother was second place, Mr. Floor Tower.
You brought that up. You brought that up.
And he was just like, just don't talk about this. Don't talk about this.
I mean, for all of our listeners, Ian is, for lack of a better term, a stud. Like, is just like,
he does all the web stuff for USC.
Does a lot of web stuff for USC. Owns his own web development company. He does a lot of stuff, everywhere. He's brilliant. But also, if you were to look at him, I mean, like,
Ian Chestnut. Yep.
He's a stud, and the nicest guy. Guy.
Oh yeah.
I remember last time, one of the times at Texas, we ran into him on the flight. Like, it was like, hey, you're flying back to Houston, and I'm going with him. And he's like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, nothing. I'm going to my hotel and grab some dinner. He's like, we got to come over to the house. I'll pick you up. And I thought we're around the corner. No, he lived in an entire different area of Houston than we were located.
He's in Pearland.
Yeah, he's in Pearland. It was like 45 minutes. And so like we drove out, and like, folded me in with all of his friends and family members, had this like night that he was having. And I was like, how nice is this? And then drove me back to the hotel. I'm like, the guy's a god in every single way. Hey, man. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, but like the cool thing about this is like, when you go to USC, it's like your closest friends and your network like kind of start your freshman year, and this, like, those lifelong connections are like invaluable, because it just kind of leads you into different things, and you're able to like leverage sources and knowledge.
It's so funny, not to keep this continuing to go.
No, we can keep going, and you can cut it. No. Look, I have a hall pass for today. So I'm good.
I granted you this opportunity. So you want to stay on as long as possible,
if you don't mind. Maybe another like 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, if it's not even that. Okay, the thing that I was actually thinking about is that I've had this conversation twice now in the last couple of days, and I think it was actually on this podcast. So I apologize if we did it already. But this idea of networking. And so many engineers, including like a senior I was talking to today about this, and it might have been this last episode. We'll record these out of order, heads up, guys. But she's a senior, my co-host, who couldn't be here today.
Emily.
Didn't get a chance to meet Emily, but we're talking about like what she's going to do. And she's like, yeah, I got to learn how to network. I'm like, you have no idea what you've been doing all through college is networking. And it's not, you don't call it networking. You shouldn't call it networking. You just do. You build community. You engage. You find things. And like what we've talked about. What did you do? You did this, and this, and I did that, and that, and things overlap here or there. Like how we both know Ian are for completely different reasons. And it's this idea of like, but now, if we were to ask him something, to do something, for him to ask us something, We would, because
Mhm.
that's and the result of that is networking.
Yeah.
It's because we've built up that community of linked partnerships and ideas and friendships. And we talk about Ian as if we see him every day. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. I mean, like there's social media passing and comment here or there on an Instagram post. That's the far-reaching depths of it. But like that's just the cool part about it. Like every once in a while, they're like when I was flying back and forth to the Bay Area, I would see Devon because he was from Oakland. He had a ministry up there.
Yeah.
And he would preach at there because in addition to being a heavy Hollywood heavyweight, he's a pastor and done some really cool stuff. But I would see him and we just connect on, in the Southwest, boarding area. Oh, good to see you, Devon. Good to see you, Paul. And I met Devon actually in high school. I don't know if you know that.
Really? Because you were president of your class and he was president of his high school class.
We were both we're not, again, this isn't about this podcast isn't about me, but
no,
this,
I know,
but to complete the story is we were both selected by our high schools to go to Boys State. Okay. And by the way, the documentary on Apple TV Plus or Apple TV Plus, if you've seen it,
I'm going to write that down. What's it called? BOYS?
I don't know what the document, it might be called Boys State, but the thing's called Boys State. There's a documentary on Boys State and it's about Texas Boys State, which is actually you'll love for a number of reasons.
Is it BOYSTATE?
Like boys.
A boy.
Like
okay.
Boys. Boy. I'm a boy. Boys State.
Okay.
And that documentary is killer and it is so spot on.
We
went to Boys State in California. Not at all like the Texas one that you see in the documentary, but has a lot of similar overtones. And the whole point is that one boy from every high school in the state gets selected and you essentially go to this week-long leadership conference. Okay. And it's so many things to it. Like you show up and you have no idea who anybody is. You get assigned a roommate, you get assigned a political party, and then you all of a sudden have to start building government over the course of 7 days. And you start with city council and mayor, and like your dorm room floor is like your city. Like you establish city rules, the city council writes rules, you elect a mayor, and then there's like county officials. And what I didn't know at the time and knowing now, the minute we got on the bus, there were people running for governor. And like people were passing out buttons and I'm like, what are you doing? Because I had no idea. It was not a tradition in my school. Like we didn't know anything. I was just showing up. Like the guy who went last year was like, yeah, it's fun. I didn't like it. I'm like, okay. So I don't know what to expect. And there was this idea of like, you meet people that you're going to connect with forever. That was like the old people that talked about Boys State was like, that was, it was an American Legion thing and it's run by that. And it's honestly, it's a military recruiting tool. Like we had multiple military info sessions.
West Point, here we go.
It was a lot like that. Okay. But still very, very cool. And anyway, I'm making this a incredibly long story.
No, I love it. Hey guys, I have 3 kids. All right. I need this. Okay.
You need to get away.
I need this.
So we do this and I'm flying really low on the radar. And it was a really cool, humbling experience because I remember you bring up presidency. The first like a thing that happened was everybody gets on the lawn and they say, great. How many of you how many of you have been elected presidents of your high school? And I was like, okay, here we go. And I'm like, boom, hands up. And then everybody's hands go up. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Small fish.
How many of you did, so-and-so? And like, and so that was the point. It's like, check it out, guys. Like understand context, understand your pool, understand your pond and where we are now. And that's not to make you feel bad, but to understand that like, this is what we're dealing with. And so there's guys running for governor, because that's the whole point is you run for office and the big deals running for governor. And so many things happen. And I did city council. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll do city council. I got fine. That's great. And we had fun. And our claim to fame in our city, we were in the Bidwell city, by the way. If anybody out there is
Bill
listening.
Bidwell, like the owner of the Arizona Cardinals?
No, some sort of California history person, if I remember correctly. And I'm sorry, I don't for everyone listening or any hardcore Boys State people out there, but Bidwell was the name of our city. And our claim to fame was we won the volleyball tournament. Like that was our pride. Like that was my thing. Like, hey, we played volleyball. I took it seriously. We competed. We won the volleyball tournament of the whole state. But as part of that, Devon, who I met one day randomly, like, oh, this is Devon, and he's running for attorney general. Okay. And he gives this speech that is everything you know about Devon. And if you've ever seen him preach, and he's been on what's the Houston big box church guy, Joel Osteen.
Yeah, Joel Osteen. Yeah,
he preaches at Joel Osteen's church.
Yeah, okay. Lakewood.
Lakewood. Yeah. So if everything you can think about that's him in high school, and he's giving this speech, being elected to attorney general. I remember it, we're the symbolism, you're one finger, and if you hit a wall, you're gonna break it. But if you're a fist, we come together.
Wow.
Like this passion. I'm of course, abbreviating this.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy in my city was the newspaper artist. He was the cartoonist, whatever, and he drew this big fist and glove type situation. It was super cool. Anyways, he gets elected to be attorney general, and everybody's so just riled up around Devon. Devon is our guy. And the thing about Boise State is that at the end of Boise State, after you elect all these people, you then choose 2 boys to represent California as senators to Boise Nation.
Oh my goodness.
And so there's every day there's another election, and then you go and you elect your 2 people out of everything. And the guy from my residence hall, which again, I'm blanking on his name. I can't remember. I think his name was Omar or Amir, if I remember correctly. But he gives a speech, and he was on their Supreme Court, and Devon was our attorney general, and they went to Boise Nation.
Wow.
And so Devon went to Boise Nation. That's the whole thing. And so then we go to SC, we're in Fleur, and multiple people were at Boise State, by the way. You see, hey, because they're wearing the shirt. You're like, hey, you remember that guy Josh that would come around hang out with Rachel?
Yeah.
He went to Boise State, and I was like, hey, what's up, Boise State? I was at Bidwell. And he's like, whoa, where you at? And then go down to Devon. I'm like, Devon, I know you. And then he's roommates with Ian, and we're like, oh, hey, Ian, what's up? And then Ian is then in Troy camp with me, and then also in orientation. We worked together for many years and all that stuff. So it's just that's networking.
Yeah,
it's not with the intention of doing that. It's doing something. And the more that you do something, the more that you get engaged, the more that you try something and you fail and you make your mark, and it's good or it's bad, you learn from something. At the end of that is that you have this network to pull upon, and they will pull upon you. And that's the whole point. Yeah.
One phrase I kind of live by is I learned it in acting class, and the coach was like, Woody Allen said, or the teacher was like, Woody Allen said, 80% of life is just showing up. Yeah. And there's nothing more true than that, because I was also president of American Society of Civil Engineers, Metro Los Angeles section. And the way I did that is I just showed up to a meeting. I'm like, what's this all about? And I showed up, and I was like, well, it's interesting. And I kind of just kept showing up. And then they're like, I became social chair. I became head of this committee, or the fundraising committee. And then I became president, and it was just man, I just showed up. I didn't plan on any of this. I had no, this is my steps. This is how I'm going to get there. I was just well, it's interesting to me. Let me do it. But I see a lot of people are like, no, I can't do that. I don't think I can. And I'm like, well, just try. I mean, you have nothing to lose. Just show up. Yeah. So, and it's sometimes I get down on myself, I'm not where I want to be in my career, but the thing is, I wouldn't be here if I didn't show up, and I can do a lot more to get where I want to be. And so to where I tell myself, look, don't be discouraged. My time will come. I have 2 little kids. I have an older son and 2 little kids. And so it's my focus is right now on them, but down the line, who knows what will happen. And it's just find things you're interested in and just show up, Yeah. And so I think that's
it. Try stuff.
So the end.
Well, what a great way to end it, man. Way to go. Look at you. Wise words from Jesal. Who would have known 20 something years ago that I would have said, look at these wise words from Jesal and listen to them.
All coffee makers.
All coffee. Hey, dude, it was so good connecting with you, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you. Anytime. If you're in Seattle and you need someone to talk about engineering or something, I can go, I can help out. Whatever you need, just let me know. I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure, man. We'll be in touch. Thanks, buddy. Have a good one. Yes. Have a good weekend. Yes, you too. And say hi to Chair and McKay. Absolutely. To your family as well. All right. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Paul. I was wondering, is there anything specific about Jasel's experience you want to like, I don't know, expand to the greater like
Yeah.
pre-engineering population?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the things that hopefully people got out of it, in addition to just me, recounting dumb stories, is that, hopefully people recognize, and the part of the conversation where we talk about how to navigate college, and how I was really giving him a lot of credit. And it really dawned on me in the middle of this conversation that he was doing a bunch of stuff. And I kind of got mad at him in a joking way, but that he didn't really pull us out into that, because he was a year older. He was a sophomore when I was a freshman. And the idea of what I tell students all the time is that you can't just sit around and wait for things to happen. You have to go do. You have to go engage. You have to go be part of things and try things and spread yourself out across whatever university you end up going to. That level of engagement and just being part of multiple communities is what's going to make someone successful. And I obviously make fun of Jesal a lot. We have a very joking relationship. But he did some really, really cool things. And there's a lot of stuff that he was doing. And I'm like, I had no idea, man. And so also talking to people about what you do and how you did it, I think is going to be incredibly important. Putting yourself out there. I think in this day and age, it's very, very easy to become somewhat reclusive, because you're always online. And so you may think you know what's going on in the world through this online environment. I tell people all the time, like, stay off of Reddit. Like, don't live in those types of encapsulated bubbles where you think you're getting broad perspectives. You're really not. You're getting a very narrow perspective of which you have no idea the amount of information and truth and background that's coming into that conversation. But when you get out and you do things and you engage with people and you talk with people and you find out people's opinions, valid, everybody can have an opinion, whether it's true or not, it is something entirely different. And this idea of engagement in the community is really something that is important to a college experience. And that continues in your, early professional career, that continues in your adult life. And that's something that you start to learn now. And so I think now with people coming out of COVID, you've been in high school through COVID, you start college in COVID, it's easier to be, not reclusive. So that's not really the goal. It's not what you're trying to be, but like inward looking, you end up being online, you end up being indoors a lot. And there's a lot of that's necessary, but how much of that can you actually spread out and do stuff when you go to college? That's going to be incredibly important. Have you found that you've been more kind of just on your own, or smaller groups of people, or engaging with less people through COVID?
I mean, definitely with COVID, I feel like I became more comfortable with like the introverted side of myself.
Yeah.
And I like spending time alone, like reading a book. But I think there is like a line between like having it like prevent you from doing things that you love to do. And now I feel like with my senior year about to end, I'm probably going to be leaving Southern California. I have this like bucket list of things I want to do before I leave. And I'm glad that I like hit a lot of the stuff as I went, but now there's like a big push to do a bunch of them, so that I like get the classic Southern California experience.
Yeah. An interesting little footnote on this conversation, Jesal and I, and our other friends and roommates. Again, Jesal wasn't my only roommate. We talk about in the conversation, there's so many of us. But we all lived in the building called Fluor Tower. And oddly enough, last night, I just learned Fluor Tower is being demolished.
Really?
They're tearing it down in May. And
are they making a new tower or something?
There are no specific plans. This is all kind of like breaking news, for lack of a better term. And Fluor Tower, like that part of campus, there's Fluor Tower, kind of Cafe 84, and then Webb Tower. And when you think about it, those buildings are kind of, they don't match, like they don't go. Like
and Cafe 84 is not even like open right now.
Yeah, and I found out Fluor Tower has been vacant for the last 2 years. Like after COVID, no one moved back in. I guess they've had this longer plan. I don't know. This is all things I'm learning. I don't have any opinion otherwise of it. But when you think about it, when you go over there, because like, the Lion Center, the pool, the health center's over there, everything's kind of a flow. And then there's just these tall, 11, 12-story towers that are kind of weird. And who knows, maybe there's going to be a new complex that will go in. But that was all, I think it was all built like for the Olympics in 1984. That's why.
Oh my gosh.
That's why it's called Cafe 84, right?
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's King Olympic Hall is the name of the building.
Yeah.
And Cafe 84 is inside of Olympic Hall. It was built for the 1984 Olympics.
Wow, that's a crazy fun fact. I feel like I've never heard that before.
Because we were the Olympic Village in 1984. USC was the Olympic Village.
That's another flex.
All the athletes stayed there in the dorms and Cardinal Gardens and all their stuff. And I think Cardinal Gardens is going to go next. The apartment buildings across the street. So
I kind of like Cardinal Gardens, so.
I had friends that lived in Cardinal Gardens. I never spent a lot of time there, but I think it's just the new, the new way, right? So I think the Village is going to expand over there. And I think that's going to do something over here with where that space is for Fleur and Webb. Progress is painful for those of us that have memories, but progress is always good. So
it's so interesting because like I'm friends with a lot of undergrad. Like, sorry, I am an undergrad, but like younger undergrads, freshmen and sophomore, they're trying to figure out where they want to live and stuff. And I was like, whoa, you should live in Kargar. I feel like everyone is always like sleeping on Kargar, but like you don't think about it. And now like people, it's like this like secret society thing. I feel like that the real freshmen and sophomores know to live in Kargar.
Really?
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that when there's so much buzz around whatever the new place is, right? Back in the day, like when I went to school, the newest one was like Fleur, and there was like, oh God, you live in Fleur. And then it was like, what was it? Parkside. When Parkside was new, oh my God, you have to live in Parkside. And then the Village is new. Oh my God, you have to live in the Village. And I hear these things over and over again. And everyone says, what's the best place to live? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It just changes all the time. And like, no matter where you live, you have the same basic space. Nothing's different.
Yeah. I would say that there are like definitely perks and like drawbacks to each dorm. Like I lived in the Village both of my years and I loved it. But also I kind of like part of me wishes I had like the classic dorm experience where I had to share a bathroom with like 20 girls. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like it would have changed my experience a little bit. But also it was really nice having my own space and like living in a suite was really nice.
I often, as long of a view as I could take on it and as objective a view as I could take on it, no matter what you do, you want the other. Like, it's just, this is what I had and I wish I had that. And if you had that, you wish you had this. You probably would have used the bathroom as the distinguishing feature on both sides.
Yeah, the bathroom is the distinguishing feature. But I feel like if you become friends with people from all the dorms, then you can just hang out in any dorm and just kind of like hang out. It's not a big deal.
You make friends, you engage, you find out what's going on in each of these different ones. And there's different levels there's community no matter what in every one of these. There's different communities in every one. And you know what? There's no distinct personality because the people change every year. It's not like you're like, oh, that's going to be that type of person and that's going to be that type of person. It's always different. And so I had the suite style when I was a kid, when I was younger. And then when I was older, we had a summer where I was living in the typical dorms with a shared bathroom. And that was fun but again, that was a summer. So it was like camp, right? So like if I were to do that every day, I don't know for me personally, but I know people love it. So yeah, teach their own. Wow. Okay. So I hope everybody enjoyed that. I hope everybody, I think we went a little deep into my life, but that's okay. I hope it was fun for everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Jesal for being here with us. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in our next episode. Bye-bye.